of, I think, really important points that we need to make about this legislation that was being marked up this morning in committee. Chuck Schumer showed up and gave a speech about it. I call it the killer app over at HartmannReport.com. My op-ed today is, in fact, it's titled "The Democrats' Killer App Against Voter Suppression is Unveiled." And there's a couple of really important points about this that I want to make. The first is that these voter suppression laws that the Republicans are passing in the states, they're being spoken of as if this is something new. As if all of a sudden the Republicans have decided that they're going to start suppressing the vote as a way of winning elections. Like this is some new strategy of theirs. This is a Republican strategy that goes back to 1980. It goes back to Paul Weyrich and that clip I used to play all the time on the show, and I'll be able to next week when we're back in the studio, where Paul Weyrich said, you know, he was talking about good government Republicans, goo-goo Republicans, and he said, they want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not decided by the majority of the people. They never have been and they never will be. In fact, quite candidly, our leverage in the election goes up as the voting populace goes down. I just did that from memory, but I'm pretty sure it's word for word. And that was in 1980 that Paul Weyrich gave that speech to a group of Republicans in a church basement in Dallas, Texas. Paul Weyrich, one of the co-founders of the Heritage Foundation. Paul Weyrich, one of the leading folks in the Reagan for President campaign in 1980, saying, we don't want people to vote. So this is nothing new. This has been the Republican strategy for 40 years. It's what put them in power. It's what has kept them in power. What they're doing now with all these laws, and here's how extensive, by the way, the laws are. This is from the Brennan Center for Justice, and this is actually about 4 weeks old, these statistics. So it's even worse than what I'm quoting to you. I just don't have the most, I spent quite a bit of time yesterday looking for the most recent statistics, and they're just all over the map. But this is from Brennan, solid, okay? This is, I can stand behind this. As of March 24th, legislators had introduced 361 bills restricting voting in 47 states. That's a 43% increase in such legislation over the previous month of February. That's just in March. They add, and this, now I'm quoting verbatim from the Brennan Center, quote, these measures have begun to be enacted. 5 restrictive bills have already been signed into law. In addition, at least 55 restrictive bills in 24 states are moving through legislatures. 29 have passed at least one chamber, while another 26 have had some sort of committee action, like a hearing, an amendment, or even a committee vote. So this is the GOP strategy. And, I mean, you can see this writ large in states like Michigan or Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, where the majority of people in the state are voting for Democrats. And therefore, your state, which is obvious because the statewide offices, be they the Republicans, be they the governor, the Secretary of State, you know, whatever those statewide offices may be, the statewide offices are going Democratic. Because the majority of the voters who showed up voted for Democrats. But the Michigan legislature, the Michigan House and Senate are still controlled by Republicans, even though the majority of the voters voted Democratic. The Wisconsin House and Senate are still controlled by Republicans. In Pennsylvania, they're still controlled by Republicans. Their congressional delegations, the members that they're sending to the House of Representatives, are still Republicans. Now, they are picking up some Democrats in the Senate because these are statewide elections. But this killer app that the Democrats are promoting is H.R. 1 or SB 1, House Resolution 1, Senate Bill 1, in other words, the first piece of legislation introduced to both chambers, which is called the For the People Act, that the Brennan Center looked at 15 different techniques that the Republicans already have in law or are trying to put into law to make it more difficult for Democratic constituencies to vote, or for people just generally to vote, or to allow billionaires to buy elections. They looked at 15 of these strategies that the Republicans are using. And the conclusion that they came to was that the For the People Act, H.R. 1, the killer app that the Democrats are proposing, that Ted Cruz this morning called Jim Crow 2.0. Talk about trying to flip a meme, right? That out of these 15 strategies that the Republicans are using, 14 of them would be nullified by this legislation. The only thing that would still be legal for Republicans to do in individual states is limit who can get an absentee ballot and who can't. And even that would be slightly, their ability to do that would be circumscribed. But in every other case, this killer app is actually going to kill these laws. All these laws. These voter suppression laws, and bring democracy back to the United States. I mean, but the really evil stuff that we need to know about, that is not being covered anywhere close to the way it should be covered in the media. I keep seeing people, Jelani Cobb, and there's a few other commentators on MSNBC who keeps bringing this up. God bless them. Is that the worst part of these Republican laws is not that you can't bring pizza or a bottle of water to somebody in line. It's that the people who will decide which votes are counted and which votes are thrown out will no longer be election professionals who are throwing out votes because somebody totally screwed up a ballot or they're not actually eligible to vote. The people deciding who gets to throw out which ballots will be Republican political party hacks. And the group that will certify the election will no longer be the Secretary of State or the officials who are, either elected or have been doing this job for a long time and have laws and things that control their behavior. Instead, the person, the group deciding whether or not, this election is valid, is going to certify the election, is now going to be the state legislature. Which in the case of these states, even though the majority of the people in Wisconsin are voting for Democrats, and therefore they have a Democratic governor, the majority of people in Michigan are voting for Democrats, therefore they have a Democratic governor, the majority of the people in Pennsylvania are voting for Democrats, but still the Republican-controlled legislatures will decide who the state actually voted for. That's the really evil stuff. Those are two of the 15 voter suppression techniques that H.R. 1 will blow up. Now, the only thing in the path of H.R. 1, of the For the People Act, the main thing in the path of it, the main thing preventing it from being passed, is the filibuster. And the main guy standing in the way of the filibuster is Joe Manchin. Now, if you don't live in West Virginia, probably anything you say to Joe Manchin is going to be irrelevant, unless you're a big donor to his campaign. But you can lobby the White House at whitehouse.gov/contact. There's a hot link in my piece over at HartmannReport.com today. And you can call Senator Schumer's office, and you should call both Senator Schumer's office and your two members of the Senate, even if they're Republicans, and let them know that you support H.R. 1, you support the For the People Act. And that phone number for every single senator, you can reach any of them, is 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. We'll continue our conversations about, voting and all this other stuff right after this break.